Hi, my name is Shaye. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Thanks for joining us. Um, this channel is somewhere that I am actively carving out for myself to express myself, to have conversations that I apparently needed to have. But really, it's for entertainment. It's for laughter. I have learned that I'm 42, and the way I have survived 42 years on this earth is really through humor because I'm not exempt from difficult times or challenges. So the way I've been able to overcome and keep one foot in front of the other is just being able to laugh at myself, being able to laugh at life. And I have chosen to share in the event that it could help someone, or you were just looking for somewhere to, see something lighthearted and maybe something that you could identify with, because I truly believe none of my experiences are unique. I do think that it's shared across the board. Everyone has some variation of some of these stories that I have shared so far. So hi, I hope you enjoy it. Um, this is my 10th video. I can't believe that. For those of you that have watched this thing from start to finish, you will know this started with me buying this thing randomly last year and not touching it for like almost a year. And then recently, after a recent trip to Portugal to see a very dear friend of mine, I came back feeling like I had to be creative. Because if you've ever been to Portugal, it's a ton of art and just artistic expressions. You walk away feeling inspired. So I came back feeling like I gotta do something, But my background, again, for those who are new here, is I have done 19 years in corporate America, primarily working in accounting and finance, which stereotypically is not a creative field. And I enjoyed it for what it was, and I, succeeded there for the time that I was there. However, I came back going, I want to create. So anyway, remember that I had this camera, popped it up, based on friends encouraging me to just maybe do a vlog. Do a vlog with all the content that you did on your phone in Portugal. And one thing led to another. I quickly realized I'm not a vlogger. I don't have the patience for it. I don't have the attention span for it. So I started talking to camera and realized this is what I enjoy doing. This feels more like it fits for me. And we'll see how long I could do it for. But the 10th video in under a month, I think that warrants a little bit of kudos to me, from me. Anyway, today's topic that I wanted to discuss is discipline, specifically self-discipline. It's something I don't do well, but something that I realize, if you are watching my life from the outside in, could seem like I do it well. There could be a false perception because, again, I was in accounting finance. I have lived a life that seemed so disciplined and structured. So I can see how someone who was in me would be like, oh yeah, she's a very, got it together. But no, I have learned over years, and I will share how my experiences in different points in my life have framed this for me, that I have to trick myself. I have one of those brains that I can't stay doing the same repetitious thing over long periods, which is typically what discipline requires, right? Like some form of control and methodical approach to things. And I can't do it in the traditional sense without tricking myself and introducing variety and, just switching things up. If I don't do that, I won't make it. So I truly, one of the things I admire when the year starts, if you're a YouTube consumer like I am, I'm a big YouTube consumer, is the people who do the planning or planning agenda content. Like they start the year out, they buy the new planners, which I have been influenced by a ton of planners. I got planners for days, and I don't use them. I don't even use my Google Calendar, but that's a different conversation. So I have purchased those planners, right? And with the intent to participate in the planning challenge for the year. I bought the stickers, I've bought the flags, I've bought all those things. But I've learned that that's just not how this processing system works. I will start off, with all the best intent. I will write things out, but quickly in a couple of weeks, I'll forget I even had a planner. I won't even know where the planner went. Nonetheless, discipline is a topic that I find very interesting because a lot of people, and rightfully so, state it's required to succeed. It is, I think, to an extent. I just think you have to find your way of practicing discipline, or staying on course is what I like to call it, like staying on course to whatever goal you have set. So one example that sticks out for me is very obvious is some people have noticed my hair. I keep my hair short, but I switch the color up pretty frequently. And this wasn't always the case. I landed here over years and years of trying every hairstyle you could name in the world. I have tried everything, I have done the short pixie cut, I have done the long, I have done the weaves, I have done locks, which was one of my favorites, but it became a bit of a burden after a while and cumbersome. I've done everything. And I specifically remember one time, my good friend who does my hair, Taya, I was inspired by watching everyone else do weaves. And I was like, I want to do a weave. I want to do a weave. And I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I did this long weave. I wanted it to be layered. I had this idea and she had to create it. Because if you're familiar with hair and hairstyles, when you do stuff so unique, like, it has to be cut, it has to be treated, it has to be shaped to your head. It was a whole thing. It was not cheap, And I went to her, we sat, she sewed it in. I was excited to have a weave. After about a week of having it and realizing that I couldn't just get up and go, I had to get up, I have to take care of it. You gotta brush it, you gotta curl it, you gotta put it back or, like pack it up at night. You can't just go dipping in water or mud or whatever. Like, if you do that, girl, good luck. You gotta wash that thing and then your hair underneath the thing now starts to itch and I realized this is too much for me. But the thing about me, like I said, is I need variety. That's really why the weave appealed to me and the locks and all those things was a constant need to switch up. Because if I didn't, I couldn't focus, right? Like, and my physical appearance was something I had to take care of because I was going into a workplace. So thankfully, after years and years of trying all the different styles, and it didn't last because that particular weave, after all that hassle to put it in, I think within 2 weeks, I called her and I was like, I gotta take it out. And I think I remember her going, what? I was like, yeah, it's not working. It's not working. I can't be bothered. I just can't. I respect the girls. It's not for me, And she gets me. She understands my personality. So she took it out. And we tried something else. Nonetheless, we landed, I think, this whole hair color and changing the color, changing it pretty frequently, but keeping it short a few years ago. And I can't recall if it was by accident or it was intentional. I think it was intentional. I had cut my hair for a while and I was doing the thing again where I was like, Ty, I think I want to get my locks back. And she was like, you know what? Let's try color. So we landed here, and this is perfect because it is low maintenance. It does not require me to be very particular about how I care for it, but it gives me just enough variety to not want to go run and go do something else. So I say that to say hair is one place I noticed when it comes to self-discipline and something that requires, again, controlled measure, methodological ways to care for. It doesn't bode well for me at all. Another place it showed up was work. As I had alluded to in previous videos, my work style could be defined as chaotic. I like to think it's organized chaos. It could be defined as chaotic. And I worked in a profession, like I said, accounting finance is known to be stereotypically type A personalities, people who are very clear in their approach, they're very disciplined, they're very organized. And if you've gathered watching these videos, that's not really my vibe. But I survived, and there's a reason why. I realized I wasn't going to be the detailed calendar task list person. Like, I have a general idea of what I need to accomplish. Give me a time frame, give me key milestones, get out of my way. Like, that's my work style. And most of my career was in consulting, and I was fortunate that I had a significant amount of clients who got that early. My most successful clients were people who saw that in me, and they did just that. You know, they were like, here you go. I need you to do XYZ by these dates. Make sure at these points I have XYZ. And they got out of my way. So those were places I thrived. I'm recalling a particular client that I did for about 2 years. I was brought in to do certain complex transactions and, you know, help them clean up some stuff. And within my first year there, I somehow became the person who took ownership and became like specialized in dealing with one particular task that they have to do annually. It's very complex, it's very tedious. Some companies require you to use an entire team to do it because it is that cumbersome. But somehow I ended up being the person who did it and did it successfully for at least a year or two. And over time of being there, again, as a consultant, when you're on site, you start to befriend people. If you've been there multiple years, you start to get close to employees. There was a particular employee who I got close to who was working on the same team I was working on, rolling into the C-suite executive that we reported to. But she was discontent with her task, with her job responsibilities, and had expressed that pretty vocally to me, that, you know, she felt like she wasn't being given things that would give her the opportunity to shine. And I knew I had this, you know, this high visibility, heavy, complex task. So me being me, I was like, sure, you know, why don't I talk to my homeboy over there, I said homeboy, but he was a C-suite executive. We just had a close relationship. Let me talk to him and see, you know, how we can get you in, you know, how we can, again, nobody sent me, but this is part of my personality. I'll go out of my way to, let's see how we can do this for you, you know? And I did. So I spoke to my client and I said, hey, I think, you know, this task is pretty large and cumbersome. I'm sure there's a way we can like feed her in, like give her components and give her an opportunity to not only feel challenged, but to shine, to show you what she's capable of. And he agreed to it. And so again, my personality, I know my deadlines. I know my key deliverables. I know where I need to be. I might not be able to shoot out a calendar and a spreadsheet immediately to show it to you, but if you ask me, I know what's going on. It's organized chaos, you know? So I knew the deliverables, and I knew a component that she could easily take on that required minimal supervision and just required her to like see it through to a certain date while I worked on all the other moving parts, right? And I knew we had dependencies. We had people who had to feed into us. I knew their timeline. I'd done this before, you know? So I gave her that piece and I said, hey girl, work on this, you know, work on this, check in with me, let me know. And in hindsight, again, it was all well-meaning. I should have faced my front, but I was trying to help. And then one day, because again, I built such great rapport with the client that I had autonomy with my work. So some days I could work from home, some days I could work on site. On this particular day, I was working from home. And again, I had a great relationship with this client. I've never had an issue with him. And he calls me out the blue. He's like, hey, how are you doing? I was like, yeah, I'm good. You know, I'm home working. He was like, yeah, I need to talk to you. I was like, no, wow, what happened? You know? He's like, your friend came to me and stated that she has concerns about the project and the way you're managing it. She expressed concerns because I guess she had asked me a few times for a calendar and I hadn't given her calendar. I'd given her general timelines, you know, and she felt like there wasn't clarity and things weren't organized, and she has concerns about us meeting the deadline or the project being completed successfully. So he's like, I just want to have an open conversation with you. That's what happens when you go help people who can't help themselves. So here I go. Again, I have done this at least 2 years at this client side. This was my last year, phasing out, you know. Being put in an awkward conversation with a client who I had spent years building trust with. He's seen me work, you know. He's never questioned my way because he's always seen it come through. But, you know, because I introduced someone new who's, in hindsight, I get it. Her work style is very type A. She's one of those people who gets anxious if there isn't a list and a calendar and the anxiety rises. So in hindsight, I realized when she was asking me for those things, her anxiety was building and I was unaware. I was just like, yeah, I've done this before. You know, I told you, I'm gonna figure it out, you know? So I was working from that premise, right? And I had autonomy to do this. And, long story short, without going into too much detail, yeah, it was an awkward conversation with my client. I mean, eventually the project got done. He saw, he knew, but it became this very awkward space where not only was I not put in a position to explain myself in detail, but also my relationship with her got fractured. And, that was someone that I saw as a friend before this incident occurred. But it got fractured because it was a breach in trust. Like, if you had that much of a concern, it should have been a direct conversation with me first, right? Before the client. But, it's fine. We survived. But I share that to say discipline, right? In the traditional sense of it, I can see now how succeeding in what I do, it could be perceived as something that I do easily, but it's not. For me, I've just had to learn myself and learn the ways that work for me and stick with that and know, again, what are my deliverables? What is the goal? What is the what's the long view? And how do I get my brain there without it getting bored? Because it gets bored very easily, So that experience taught me some valuable lessons. But when you're working with people who that's not their work style, then you do have to use a muscle that you're not accustomed to, just to help bridge the gap. Just explain, like, I'm going to have a calendar where I know these things. There are probably ways I could have handled it better. But I say that to say that was a work experience with, someone who was very disciplined working with me, who they assumed, I think, was as work like them. And they saw very quickly, like, that's not my style, Another place it showed up is in personal finances, which this will be an interesting one because, again, like I said, I worked in accounting finance. I have a CPA. I have an MBA. I got 2 degrees from one of the best colleges in this country. You would think someone with that level of accolades is great at finances. And I managed significant transactions and finances for some of the largest companies in this country. So with me, what I quickly realized as a young professional, I came out of school very fortunate to be approached by a company and given a job, like a traditional job that was pretty lucrative. And again, like I said, advanced pretty steadily up the ladder in that company. I got to a point where, I had my first property, I had a decent income. I was by all definitions on the outside doing well. But I was hearing peers and people around me talk about finances in a way that I wasn't accustomed to. They're talking about using financial advisor. So they were talking about investments, which I was aware of investments because, again, I'm in finance. So I was like, what? I think I'm ready to invest. 20s, late 20s, like, I got my stuff in order. Let me get a financial advisor. So I asked one of my friends who I respected how she was handling her finances. And I was like, let me sit with this financial advisor. Like, this easy conversation, man. Like, I told y'all, you see my accolades. I earn good income. I got a property. Let's invest, And I remember our first conversation, the financial advisor asked me some key questions. And they'll have you submit your information, like, send your bank statements and your bills. He was asking me all these questions. I was like, again, I'm not disciplined. So it's not like I'm not one of those finance people who got a spreadsheet for their budget every month. Like, it's just in my head. I know the number I need to hit. I got it, Like, that's where I was functioning, which I'm sharing this in hopes that it helps somebody, because that's a level of arrogance that I can't even believe I had. But anyway, I got this. I know my number. I know how much comes in. I know how much goes out. We're good, And we had our first conversation. I submitted all the paperwork. Then we had a follow-up conversation, which was one of the most humbling conversations I ever had in my life, where this man proceeded to let me know he had tallied my number, my assets, my retirements, my, bank account, considered my savings. I didn't honestly, I barely had savings, but I was like, I got a healthy income and I got a property, I got this. I need to invest. And this man said, ma'am, your net worth is 0. Actually, your net worth is negative. And to clarify, because I don't want to assume everybody knows what net worth is. So your net worth is essentially, it's a mathematical equation. It's you take a sum of all your assets, which could be, house, it could be investments, value, whatever. You sum up all your assets and you deduct your liabilities. So, if you have a house, you probably have a mortgage on it. How much is left on the mortgage? If you have credit card debt, those types of things. So basically, if you had to liquidate everything you had today and pay everyone back, what can you take with you and say is yours? Mine was negative. And that started my finance journey, my personal finance journey, which we'll discuss on another day. But like I said, it was a humbling experience. But I also realized in having that conversation with him, again, going back to discipline, yes, I had income. Yes, I on the surface had all these things going on, but I didn't have discipline around my money. I was just, like I said, I knew the number. Once I pay the bills, what's left in there? Enjoyment. That's that was my mindset with money. And that was a space that I realized my style doesn't work without help. So I got help. I got help. I got somebody who's a bit more disciplined to be like, here are your roadmaps. We created a plan and we automated some things because if it's in the account, enjoyment. So it was just we had to carve things out and just work with what makes sense for me. And things are much different today. But anyway, all of that rambling was to say discipline in the traditional definition, I think sometimes needs to factor in what your personal limitations are, what your personal abilities are. And I've had to figure out, having to exist in spaces that are seemingly disciplined, they're seemingly built for people who are a certain type, what works for me. Some have been trial and error. I've had to make some mistakes. I've had to tweak some things. But what I've learned over time is, for me, I need variety. And sometimes I need help. And I have to know when that is and ask for help. Anyway, didn't expect that to take this long. I hope y'all have a nice week, and we'll see when the next one drops. I'm getting better with the regulating, sleep's good. So, we'll see if we have a routine now. All right. Well, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.